was telling Matt today, I really hope Fox signed on Ian Dark for the World Cup. I can't watch a U.S. game without Ian Dark.
With a header, Howard gratefully claims it. Distribution, brilliant. Landon Donovan, there are things on here for the USA. Can they do it here? Cross, and Dempsey is denied again, and Donovan has scored! Oh, can you believe this? Go, USA! Certainly through. Oh, it's incredible.
Ian Dark is phenomenal.
Yes.
He might be my favorite today because I don't get Martin Tyler stuff anymore because he's on Sky or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's normally got the big game for Sky, but NBC has their own, like some, Peter Drury.
Yeah. And Peter Drury's fine.
Yeah. What about Arlo's? Is Arlo still calling MLS games?
Yeah, it's with the Chicago Fire.
The meaty French forehead strikes again!
That's the only reason why I will watch a Chicago Fire game is just to hear Arlo's voice.
What a downgrade for him. You go from Premier League, being the voice of the Premier League in America, to repping one of the shittiest organizations in MLS.
But he was originally with Chicago before he came to.
Was he?
EPL, right?
I don't know much about
I thought
it.
you told me that.
It's possible.
Collins, who was the OG FIFA commentator alongside Martin Tyler?
Andy Gray.
That's it. He got in trouble or something, right?
He got me too'd.
That's right. Before it was cool to get me too'd. Bakayoko. Oh yeah. Samina mina. Edward Mende. Samina mina Sam Sadate. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out to get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving.
The flag stays down!
Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Tonight, it's just three guys who have drank more beer than a single fan at the Qatar-Ecuador match. You've got me, Andy, at Comiskey North. You've got Parker at DJ Parkour. And you've got Matt at Matus Lee. Matt, how you doing tonight?
The openers get better and better. I love it. Doing good. Been a pretty productive weekend. Well, by my standards at least. Yeah, and got to watch the first kickoff game of the World Cup with you, Collins, at Highbury, and can't forget the shout out to the little homie Aiden. He was there too. Yeah, it was a good time. When you're having a couple beers and watching some footy, can't ask for much more. So all in all, pretty good. Parks, how's it going over there?
It's low-hanging fruit, man, taking shots at Qatar in a World Cup, man. I feel like they've been the punching bag for, I don't know, 8 years since they've been announced the host city. But
the body bag might be more accurate, but just want to throw that out there.
I didn't say it. Yeah, I didn't say it. All things considered, I'm pretty good. I too tuned in to the first match of the World Cup and have some thoughts on that. But overall, it was a nice reset weekend. I was, from when you guys came 2 weeks ago, that was pretty busy. Lot going on. Last weekend, I went to New York. Shout out to the Football Factory, where I got to watch the match. It wasn't a very good match to watch, and so that was not very fun. I also found myself near Newcastle fans, which really fucking sucked, let me tell you. But Football Factory was an awesome bar to watch the game. It's an LSU bar up top and then a Chelsea bar in the basement. And some really, really passionate fans. The place was packed. It was great. So hats off to them for a good host and a good bar to check out a game. So aside from that, boys, it was a relaxing weekend comparatively to those two. So life's good. And I didn't have to drown my woes as much as I normally had to. So it's a good break. It's a needed break.
Yeah, amen to that. This has been the most relaxing week of the entire season for me. Going to Highbury and not having to be pissed at anything was great. Even if Qatar had scored, I would have been annoyed, but not really upset. But yeah, it's been nice. Got to watch Sebastian Vettel's last race today. Now that we're all on the F1 train here, Matt, we'll be starting our new podcast when the lights go out, maybe next week. But yeah, so it's good. But let's start this episode the way we start every episode, by cheersing to the player that wore the number of what this episode is. And this week we're on number 15. And every week I say, oh man, this number isn't really used a whole lot. 15, very scarcely used in the history of Chelsea. Not a big fan. So boys, here are your options. Florent Maluda, Kurt Zouma, Mario Melchior, Victor Moses.
Victor. For me, got to be Victor. I was, and I know why, Collins, you're shaking your head because of Maluda, but he's your boy from Lyon, so shut the fuck up. Me, I was more around for Victor Moses than I was for Maluda, so that's why I got to stick with Victor Moses. I thought he was the ultimate professional after being sent out on loan for 90% of his career, and then when we had Conte, showed that he's actually good. He's actually good in a system that fits him. So for me, Victor Moses, always been a fan. That's my pick.
What shocks me is not that you went against Florent Maluda, but it's that you went for Moses over Zuma. Because in the era that we've watched, I feel like Kurt Zouma has been a much more prominent, much more reliable figure, much more reliable. I use it a little bit tongue in cheek, but much more featured. Has played in far more Chelsea matches, and thus a bigger part of Chelsea lore to you and I. But I tip my nod to Florent Maluda. So I digress.
Florent Maluda, 228 matches for Chelsea, 45 goals. He played over 42 matches in 4 out of his 5 seasons, scored double-digit goals in 2 of those. We would kill for that kind of player these days. Absolutely kill for a left winger who could do that. So Matt, I'm overriding you here. Florent Maluda is who this pod is going to be named after.
And that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I wasn't watching as intently as I do now during his time. So that's the only reason why I would go with Victor. And Collins, you know more than anybody, I can't stand Kurt Zouma. And neither can you after I made you focus on him passing the ball. You can't unsee it. Looks like he's putting everything into a back pass and it goes 2 feet.
All right. Well, let's cheers to Maluda here. Cheers, boys. And what we're cheersing with is Mobcraft Milwaukee. It's a smooth white chocolate milk stout, brewed with white chocolate, vanilla, and cocoa nibs to get just the right amount of lactose. Boys, it's stout season, and this is one of my favorites. It's got the Milverine carrying a keg, riding a cow on the can. You know, can art is always important. but just the white chocolateness of this stout is delicious. So highly recommended. Again, you can pick up Milwaukee wherever you get your Mob Craft beer.
I must have missed a memo because I'm cheersing to Too Legit to Wit. So just mainly so I can do Too Legit to Wit, like something a little bit different. It fits still. You can still do the hand gestures to it. The boys just saw it and cringed. I know it's a bit cringe, but you know what? I still get to cheers to Mobcraft's Too Legit to Wit. Also a great beer. So
this is an audio medium.
That was awesome. Parks, that was absolutely awesome.
I feel like everyone that heard that with the beat knew exactly what I was doing, Collins. It's translating. Yeah. It's painting a picture.
Okay. I believe you. All right. Well, on tonight's podcast, no topics, but hey, we do have a conversation with Conor Caloia. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Forward Madison and Milwaukee Pro Soccer. So we're excited to welcome him onto the pod. Let's turn to that right now. Well, we are pleased on this episode to welcome in Conor Caloia. He's the COO and partner with Forward Madison and Milwaukee Pro Soccer. Conor, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on. And Matt and I being in the Milwaukee area, and Parker being originally from Wisconsin, we're all really excited about the news of a new club here in Milwaukee. So I guess just to open it up here, what is your background with the sports and with Forward Madison, and why Milwaukee and why now?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate you guys having me, and always excited to talk about the future of pro soccer in Milwaukee. My background, I've worked my entire career in sports. Started as an intern with the Madison Mallards when I was in school at the UW-Madison, and then spent some time in college athletics out in Denver, working for the Western Athletic Conference a couple years, in Wilmington, North Carolina, running a baseball team. And then I returned to Madison in 2009, and our group went from one baseball team to four across the state. And in 2015, we took over Breeze Stevens Field, which is 9 blocks from the state capitol here in Madison. And it was originally poorly built as a baseball stadium in 1926 with a right field fence of 220 feet. Didn't really make any sense. But it was built as a baseball stadium. It wasn't really being used. The city was doing about 30 events a year. About less than 10,000 people came through. They'd recently put in turf, and so we took it over from the city without a business plan. We just started doing events, but we knew it needed an anchor tenant or a core tenant. So I led our group, I led the search along with my business partner, Vern Stemman, to bring soccer to Breeze Stevens Field. And that process started in 2016. Finally, in 2018, we landed on a league, which ended up being USL League One. And we launched Forward Madison in 2019. And so, our background and my background was primarily in baseball and events. And in 2018 and 19, we got into pro soccer. When we got into, when we launched Forward Madison, before we even played a game in Madison, we developed a statewide strategy across the state of Wisconsin for spectator soccer. And we, at that time, back in 18 into 19, we were had our eyes on eventually bringing pro soccer to Milwaukee. And so it took us quite a while to kind of locate the right site and put together the proper development. But we were excited last month to announce, the Iron District, our development, would be hosting a USL championship team that's on schedule for 2025. So, I started my career in baseball and events, shifted to soccer, have run our soccer operations since March of 2019, and see a lot more soccer in my future than baseball.
And that's awesome. We're all definitely looking forward to that. In terms of that Iron District site, was that just kind of right opportunity at the right time, or was that a site that you guys have been looking at for a while now?
Yeah, we've been looking at sites since 18. And so I think we looked at close to 50 different sites focused in the city of Milwaukee, but also looked at some suburban sites as well. Ultimately decided that, if you look at the successful new pro teams, both MLS and championship in League One, the new pro soccer teams that are coming online, you need to be downtown. You need to be kind of close or close to an urban core. In the experiment of doing it outside the city just doesn't work. And so while we had some great opportunities in the suburbs, we continue to look downtown. The site that we landed on, I think we had lost it once, maybe twice, and kind of kept coming back to it. And eventually timing was right to work out an agreement with Marquette University that owned the land. And, of all the different sites we looked at, that is, we think, the ideal site to put professional soccer in Milwaukee. If you look at the underdeveloped parcels that are still kind of in the downtown core, great visibility, 300,000 cars a day going by that highway. It kind of bridges the Deer District to the Third Ward. And so we feel really good about the site. And so we like I said, we've been exploring that site since 2019, finally got it under contract earlier this year. And we're able to make that announcement and roll out formally roll out the development.
So for those less educated about the hierarchy of American soccer, you mentioned USL League One, USL Championship. Can you explain a little bit about how it all kind of lays out for some of the less informed of how the leagues work in the US?
Yeah, Parker, I'd love to. I think we only have like an hour or something though, right? We don't have like 6 hours to explain how. I don't know if you've ever seen that Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme of was it Charlie where he's like on that whiteboard and all the he's trying to connect the murder. That's like trying to explain the different divisions of tiers of American soccer. But I'll do my best in 30 seconds. Major League Soccer, top tier in the US, I think up to 27 or 28 teams with what are they at? They're at 28 with I think with St. Louis coming in next year. That's the first tier. Milwaukee, the Major League Soccer has started their own second division, MLS Next Pro, and that's in the third tier, and they're kind of in one, vertical of pro soccer in the U.S. In Madison, in Milwaukee, we're in the USL vertical, and so USL Championship, second division, the second tier of pro soccer in America, 26 markets next year. Large markets of 1 million plus people, Sacramento, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Albuquerque, larger markets, Louisville, and Milwaukee will play in that league. There's also a USL League One, which is third division. That's where Madison is, 12 teams playing next year, markets of 250,000 to 750,000 people. So, and then there's also another third division league as well, NISA, that's out there kind of across the country. It's challenging to kind of keep it all straight, but as we looked at the right league for Milwaukee, the potential of that market, USL Championship was the right fit.
And so with USL, I think we're familiar with MLS, and for a new club they have the expansion draft and obviously sign players and whatnot. But what is it like for starting? What are the next milestones for starting a club in the USL Championship?
Yeah, so it's I don't want to say it's the wild west, but you got to put the team together from scratch. There's not an expansion draft. There's not a pool that's being pushed your way. It's put together a sporting department, a technical department, head coach, and get at it. And the challenging thing is you construct a new team. There's a couple different ways to do it, but the challenging thing is contracts run until November 30th, the season before. So, in theory, players, when the season ends, they may dissolve their contract with their club or know they're not coming back and mutually part. But, if you look at the lead up to a season, players would likely report around January 15th, February 1st. Most of those players are out of contract November 30th. So it's 6 to 8 weeks. So, in theory, you can sign players in advance and just have them train, or sign them in advance and loan them to somebody else to play. But we are having to work our way forward to 25, but also work the way back from a timeline standpoint. And so, we'll have to have a technical staff built, fully constructed if we're going to start in April 25, by early 24 at the latest. A group that's familiar with the league and what we're doing. I think there will be an opportunity to use Madison as well. Madison being in the third division, I think there is some technical efficiencies between the two clubs. They'll be operated separately. Well, there'll be similar ownership. There's going to be some common ownership between the two teams, but they'll be operated separately. But I do think it makes sense to have some technical synergy there. I think it's a great recruiting tool for Madison to say that if you come here and do well, you can work your way up to the championship in Milwaukee. And I think it's a nice tool for Milwaukee to have some players down the road that can help from a training standpoint or even help, from a talent pipeline standpoint.
And having those two clubs just an hour away is super awesome too. Just the proximity to good talent for training opportunities and things. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's, I think we don't fully have the plan together, but we think it does make sense for the two clubs to share a sporting vision. To probably have a sporting director that oversees both and share one kind of style of play and vision as to how they do things. I think that would help from a talent development standpoint as well.
And then, is there any interest? I know we don't have boots on the ground yet. We're for the men's team, but is there any interest in adding a women's team or an academy program?
So I think that's a fair question. I think you're going to see the men's team or the men's side has grown so quickly since 2012 or 2013. I think there was less than 50 teams, 45 teams, and now there's close to 100 pro teams in the U.S. I think you're going to see that type of growth between now and say 2030 on the women's side. Only 12 pro teams in the NWSL. They're going to add a couple teams, but in 23, I believe the USL Super League is coming on in the professional space, and I think you're just going to see rapid growth in the women's professional space over the next 8 to 10 years. We want to get the men's team up and going. We want to get that established. But yeah, with a new facility in a great market like Milwaukee, it does make sense to eventually bring women's professional soccer there. When we launched Madison, we hoped between year 3 and year 5 we would have women's soccer in Madison. Now, the pandemic hit. I'm not exactly sure what year we're in. I think we're in year 2.5 or 3.5. But that's still a focus for us as well to do women's soccer in Madison, and we're just kind of letting the leagues develop and find the right spot. I mean, very similar to what happened on the men's side. I mean, we almost joined what was the PDL at the time. We were almost an MLS two team for a while, and then eventually it just kind of shook out that League One was the right league. As it relates to the academy, excuse me, I would expect us to participate in the USL Academy at some point in Milwaukee.
So out of curiosity, so a couple of things, we obviously Milwaukee for myself, Colin specifically, it's a big part of our lives. We both grew up here. I mean, me specifically, I've been in Greenfield my whole life. So super close to downtown. I work downtown. So that's definitely a big thing for me. With this new team that we have coming in, what are your thoughts or kind of what are your plans for really engaging with the community, similar to the way that you have with Forward Madison?
Yeah, I think the worst thing a pro soccer owner or executive can do is, name the team, pick the colors, pick the icon. There's a lot of, excuse me, guys, there's a lot of case studies, especially in the US, where this is how not to do it, right? And so that community, it's going to be the community's team. Myself, Jim Kazmarek, we'll be two of the owners. I'll run the team day to day. We'll have a local ownership group, but it's got to be the community's team. Soccer is different than other sports, and we have to listen to the supporters and listen to our fans and you guys that live in Milwaukee and love pro soccer and love soccer in general. You have to guide us and tell us what to do and what we should be. And that community engagement has started now with our Name the Team contest. We've already compiled over 3,000 names, but it's more than just kind of marketing type stuff. It's actually getting into the community, getting into all corners of the community, giving kids the chance that can't afford to play soccer, giving them an opportunity to play soccer, and giving back and be an active participant that's enriching the community. That's what these clubs should do. Somebody on the sheet of paper has to be the owner, but it's really the community's club. And if we do this thing right, the club will be here way longer than we are. And that's really what the focus is. So, we've started the community engagement with the Name of the Team contest. Our street teams are active in the soccer bars today on opening day of the World Cup, and will be throughout the World Cup. And you'll see us continuing to activate in the community. Before too long, next summer, we'll be getting into the community from a coaching and educational and clinic standpoint. And it's our job to just grow soccer at all levels. So yeah, you will see, even in advance of when we launch in 25, hopefully what people think is a pretty strong community push.
And Matt and I did have the opportunity to meet some of your street teams today out at Highbury Pub, and
How'd they do?
No, they did great. I
All
had
right,
my
good.
8-year-old son with us, and yeah, he was loving every second of just talking soccer with these guys. So yeah, definitely a positive push from day one here at the World Cup.
Wonderful, good to hear.
So you mentioned the choose the name contest, and we've seen across the world with these that sometimes there's some pretty crazy ones that are thrown out there. Are there any ones that kind of caught your eye that might get a laugh out of?
Well, there's definitely some. The Milwaukee Talkies is getting some steam. I think that's an internal favorite amongst the staff. There's some inappropriate ones that probably, if you have an 8-year-old son, we won't need to talk about. I've got a 6 and a 9-year-old. I didn't. For the first time today, I actually looked at them or got a rundown on them, because it may sound negligent, but I don't want to grab onto one that I like because I don't want to be partial. It's ultimately going to be decided by a fan vote, and like I said, we've had over 3,000 votes. I'll just give you a couple peeks into to where there's a lot of interest. A lot of Cream City, and that by no means a majority, but that's a fairly common push right now. Cream City, fill in the blank, or just Cream City FC. That have been strong. The Milwaukee Tall Boys is getting a lot of steam. I haven't seen it, but I believe there was somebody put together kind of like a mock, or I shouldn't say mock, but a potential badge and look, and so that has helped that get some steam. A lot of beer names. So we're going to be as much fun as this is, we're going to be patient with it. We're going to continue to work through. Eventually, we'll kind of get to bracket style and whittle our way down. But the two things that are for sure: one, there's a ton of creativity. I mean, people are not just like, it's not just Milwaukee FC 3,000 times. And two, there's a ton of interest. So it's super encouraging to see the way people are reacting already and kind of connecting with it.
Is there a place that our listeners can go to submit their ideas?
Yeah, MilwaukeeProSoccer.com. Please go to MilwaukeeProSoccer.com. You can submit your idea. You can submit your email address to stay on our newsletter. We aren't doing season ticket deposits yet. What we're doing is, if you do buy merchandise, you're automatically in line to get tickets. If you don't want to buy merchandise and want to get in line for season tickets, just send us a note and we'll get you on the list. But it's really been great to see the interest so far.
I'm just going to go out and say, go buy the merch, because the merch looks awesome. I saw that you guys just dropped some new stuff today, I believe, and the sweatshirts look awesome. The scarves and hats and everything are pretty sweet. So I will be making a purchase later today. Thanks,
Parker. Appreciate that. I have to get one. It's been like flying quickly. So we're keeping it for the folks and not for the office. But yeah, it's we're lucky. We got a great merch team, good design team. And I think that's just a small sneak peek of what's to come on what we'll do from a brand and merch standpoint.
Yeah, I've got my scarf. I just have yet to put it up on the wall here.
Got it.
But I love that scarf. It's a quality one. I like the color scheme, and yeah, it's real nice.
Thank you.
So in terms of looking forward to 2025, is there anybody in USL Championship that you're looking forward to seeing this team play, or any road trip you're looking forward to?
Yeah, it's even since we've been in or been monitoring kind of the USL, it's great to see the growth and just the development of what's happening. Like Louisville, $65 million stadium, 13,000 seat stadium. There's a lot of cool stadiums, cool projects, including ours coming on. I would say, I don't want to call it a rivalry because we don't have a team yet, so it's a little tough to like be calling shots. But I feel like Detroit could be fun for our fans. It's drivable. I think it's kind of gritty, blue collar, grassroots, Midwestern town. They have an amazing fan base, and I think that could be a cool kind of connection. Too early to call it a rivalry, but I think that'd be fun for sure. And then we'll kind of have to see what else comes online. But we will have drivable competition and matches with Des Moines, Indy, Detroit, Louisville. So I think there's some great partners there, or great travel partners there to get our fans to some road matches. Is there any you guys are? I know you're supposed to ask me the questions, but any ones you're particularly excited about?
I've got two. Like you mentioned, Detroit. I've watched a couple of their matches this season, and they've played in a league with another team in Milwaukee here for a season. And I remember watching them, and their fan base is rabid. So I'm looking forward to that one, and also Louisville City FC. That's they run quite the organization down there. So looking forward to seeing them in person.
Yeah, I would have to say Louisville as well. Just having an opportunity to watch a couple of games and just kind of look at everything, and that would be a lot of fun. Just me as just a baseline fan, just watching whatever. Like, I would be very excited to go to that. And then you throw in a new Milwaukee team. Absolutely. Yeah, that would be a great experience.
What's really exciting for me, Connor, is I try to come down to Milwaukee 2-3 times a year to see my boys and hang out and have a boys weekend. It's going to be fun to look at the calendar and circle dates that make sense, because we did this with Madison, where it's just like, all right, well, I can drive to Madison, it's 3 or 4 hours away, and I can get there pretty easily. And so let's pick a weekend, go down, stay in a hotel and catch a game. And it's a reason to do this. I mean, really, that's the reason this whole podcast exists. It's the reason for the boys to get together on a Sunday night, have a couple of beers and talk soccer. It's great. It's like a fantasy football league, right? It's just an excuse to keep the group chat running and to keep everything kind of going forward. So to have more excuses to put more dates on the calendar for me to circle and take a quick flight or a 5-hour drive to Milwaukee, it's beautiful. It's really great. And I'm not looking forward to any specific rivalries. I'm just looking forward to catching games and having the excuse to see the boys. So it's really, really fun for me.
Awesome. And I think that speaks to what's so great about the game is that what our goal for doing it right as a club is just bringing people together. Just create a community around the club. Everybody's welcome. I think the coolest thing about what's happened in Madison is we have so many people that buy one season ticket. They don't buy 2, 3, 4. They buy one, but they're immediately a part of something else. They're immediately a part of a friend group or a club, or they feel a part of something. And so hopefully we give you a reason to get to Milwaukee. I think the stadium in Louisville is amazing. I mean, it truly is pretty darn close to an MLS type environment, if not at that quality. Some of the facility, some of the training and the stuff they have, I think is at that level, and it's impressive to see what they've done so far down there.
And Parker, you're being shy there. We all know you're looking forward to seeing Phoenix. Parker's a big Didier Drogba guy, so
he's coming back. I think, he's 25. He's gonna come back. So
yes,
if he comes back, I'll be there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Phoenix is moving their stadium again. I don't know if you saw that over the weekend, but I think it's the third time, and it's an interesting. I think they continue to locate to better locations, but or move to better locations. But it's a fascinating marketing study to continue to grow your fan base as you shift around a metro area.
And a big one at that. That's our drive from some places there. Well, looking at the stadium here in Milwaukee in the Iron District, we did have a question from one of our listeners. And they want to know, if the team is successful, if eventually there's a push to go to a higher division, is there room for expansion in the Iron District?
Yeah, there is room for some expansion. I mean, or some growth of the stadium. I mean, we're coming out at 8,000 seats as a plan, in that both hospitality and kind of general seating. We are working with our architects, JLG and Kaler Slater, and we think it's fairly easily scalable to 12,000. Not quite to an MLS tier number of seats, but we can get to 12,000. I don't want to say easily, but we're prepared to do that. With that being said, with any stadium and with consumer trends you're seeing after the pandemic, we want to sell it out before we'd rather have too few seats than have too many seats. So we've done a handful of stadiums over the years, and we always underbuild. Want to sell it out, fill it up, and then worry about adding more seats.
And then sticking with listener questions here about the club going forward, we had one come in. Is there a commitment to pay a living wage to club employees when the team does finally get around?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we've always done. I'm pretty sure. I think I think sports has grown. 20 years ago when I was an intern, there was some jobs in sports, and a lot of jobs in sports you were part-time or full-time, or you were working full-time hours being paid part-time. This is a much more sophisticated, and it's a legitimate industry now. So we have to hire to compete qualified professionals that whether they're from this industry or others. We absolutely pay a living wage in Madison to our employees. And on the field side of things, it's collectively bargained. There's a players association, a players union. And so I think that agreement, by the time we start in 25, does dictate what the compensation will look like, at least what the minimum compensation will look like. So no, I think that's a fair question and something that, one, we think it's important that you pay people a living wage, but two, we want to be competitive in everything we do. And in order to do that, you have to pay people well.
So quick follow-up just on that. I'm just kind of curious, just obviously not being in a position where I've had to build a team from the ground up before. When we talk about, starting up this team with, the 6 to 8 weeks that we have with, contracts and things like that once they expire, how do you kind of balance that as far as, do you try to stay local? Like, if you're going to be starting a new team in a state like Wisconsin, are you going to try and draw local first and then branch out? Or just, I'm just curious as to kind of how you've seen that play out just kind of over your years of experience.
Just so I have it right, from a talent standpoint.
Yeah, I would say even on the field and off the field.
Yeah. I mean, off the field, it's a lot easier to do a lot more off the field folks locally. It makes a lot more sense. Transitions easier. On the field, we'll have a preference. We always have a preference for in-state or local. We try and do that. But the reality of these leagues is they become more sophisticated, more competitive. You have to reach out further. You're allowed to have 7 international roster spots. We'll likely come close to filling that, if not filling that. And while there's great soccer in Wisconsin, great soccer in Milwaukee, 50,000 youth players, the reality is there's a lot of really good soccer in warmer climates. So we'll have to have a mix of local, but also players from across the country and across the world. I mean, we'll always have a preference for local, but that's probably 2 to 4 spots on a 22-man roster. And chances are it's going to be no one geographic area in the country or the world's going to dominate. It's just going to be fairly spread out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I was just kind of curious as to what that thought process is, and that's a great answer. I'm excited to hear about that.
And I also think from a chemistry standpoint, I think local is good when you're new. I think equally so when you're building a team, right? You're going to want some people that know the market, right? You're going to want some people, both whether it be in the front office or especially in the front office, but on the technical side, some people that know the market. But on the playing side, you're going to want some people that know the market, know Milwaukee, can kind of, I don't want to say be a tour guide, but get others acclimated more quickly if they're coming from the Caribbean or South America or Africa. And they come in and hopefully there's a player or two or some folks that can get them, acclimated. And then secondly, it's important that you have a good amount of players that are familiar with the league. because whether you're going up or down or moving from Europe to the US or back and forth, there's an acclimation period. I would say at least a half a season. If you're going from country to country, if you're going up to down, it's probably a third of a season. And that acclimation period, I think, can be shortened if you've got leadership that understands and can try and bring others along. But, as we build the team, it is going to be important that we try and find some local talent that are familiar with the market, and try and find some folks that are familiar with the league and the level of play and the style of play and the officials and the other teams and everything that comes with it. Travel, even just, when you get to this market, what's it like? Having some experience there is going to help.
So one of my first experiences to a somewhat of a lower division club is Welcome to Wrexham, which is a show that came out with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, and it's what you just said about having some local guys on the pitch to help kind of facilitate things and kind of work through some of the bullshit that happens with it, and just to get everyone else kind of grounded and have that local guy that people cheer for still is important. And I think that's really cool. And the city like Milwaukee really embraces some of their own, but they also embrace international stars. I mean, Giannis is the obvious, easy answer in my head of an international star who came and just got embraced by the city of Milwaukee. And it's so cool to see what a city like Milwaukee can do when they've got kind of a train to run behind. And so it's really exciting to see that Milwaukee gets a shot at good American soccer, and there's no real question here. I'm just kind of chatting through it. It's just cool to see.
Well, but I think you're onto something there, that the way we build the club, it's got to be reflective of the community. And maybe it's not made of the community, but it's got to reflect the values and what's important to the community. And so I think there's a work ethic in a way you play and a style of play that ideally connects with Milwaukee. And if we can manage that, I think ultimately the team will be successful.
Absolutely. And in Milwaukee, like you guys have all said, it's a very diverse community, especially from a soccer standpoint. Matt and I are at Highbury or Three Lions, and it's a million different fans from a million different teams. And how can fans get involved centrally around this one team? Is there anything that they can go out and do now? Do you see anything in terms of supporters clubs? I know you mentioned season tickets earlier, not available yet, but do you have any news on when that would be coming up?
Yeah, I think late 23 we'll probably get season tickets on sale, or officially on sale. We're building that database. I don't want to call it a waiting list, but building those that interest list now and kind of slotting you in. I think staying tuned to Milwaukee Pro Soccer is good. Get on the newsletter. But there is a supporters group, and I think it's one of my favorite stories, or part about everything we're doing is the Milwaukee Barons, and they started in 2014 with the goal of bringing pro soccer to Milwaukee. And I think at one point had over 5,000 Facebook followers. That slowed down a little. I don't want to say died off, but it slowed down a little. Their goal was to do that in 5 years. It didn't come to reality. By 2019, there wasn't a pro team in Milwaukee, and we've been able to reconnect with them. And those gentlemen that started that group are still active, and so I would encourage you to connect with the Milwaukee Barons or follow them and join them. We want to grow that supporters group. We want to get input from other people. The Barons were instrumental in helping us as we kind of navigated, some early questions on the right fit from a league perspective, and what should our first name be? Should it be Milwaukee Pro Soccer or something else? And if it's Milwaukee Pro Soccer, is it just a word mark or an icon? These sound like little silly simple things, but we take that fan input seriously, and they helped us pick the logo. They helped us pick the colors of our temporary name, not even a real name. So yeah, get tied in with the Barons. We want to grow that group. What they've done already has been helpful, and it's pretty awesome that they've been pushing for this since 14, and it's going to become a reality here before too long.
And we'd mentioned this a little bit earlier in our conversation, but you've got the street teams out in Milwaukee, especially over the World Cup here. Is there anywhere specific that our listeners can go meet these people?
Yeah, we'll be at the tried and true soccer bars. So Nomad, Highbury, Red Line, three lines, and then we're gonna get out to some other places as well as we kind of get into the World Cup here, see where the crowds are going. But we'll be at those 4 spots regularly. It's awesome that the city has 4 kind of legit soccer bars. There's some MLS cities that I don't think have that. There's a lot of USL cities that don't have that. So we'll be around all World Cup and then hit some other places as well. I appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the time. Look forward to keeping in touch with you, and hope to maybe see you in Madison next summer.
Oh, absolutely. And we appreciate you coming on, and yeah, we'll have to keep in touch.
Thanks, guys. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
Cheers, Connor.
If you've enjoyed what you watched today on Twitch TV, please give us a follow there. I'll be broadcasting most Sundays at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Or if you're busy on Sundays, or if you like to listen to the podcast version instead, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcasts. All that we ask is that if you listen to us on Spotify or Apple, that you subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It takes no more than 30 seconds, but does us a ton of good in spreading all the things that we do here. You can always follow us on social media. The podcast can be followed on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FlagDownPod. You can follow me, Andy. I'm at Comiskey North. You can follow Parker at DJ Parkour, and Matt is at Matus Lee, all on Twitter. If you have any questions or comments or anything you want us to address on air, we're always happy to read what you got. So either come join us on Twitch and jump in the live chat, or shoot us a DM on social media. All I've got, boys. Cheers to the World Cup. Go USA.
I'm all potted out.